On Friday, SpaceX had its IPO, the biggest IPO in the history of IPOs. SpaceX is valued amongst the biggest companies in the world, amongst companies like Alphabet, Meta, or other companies like Tesla. Companies among the Magnificent Seven. Now the question is SpaceX a good investment, or might this be the biggest liquidity grab in the history of the stock market? Hello and welcome to my channel STB.trading. My name is David and let's jump into the chart and check how SpaceX opened on Friday, and let's discuss if SpaceX is a good investment or not. Alright, so we are looking here at the 15-minute chart of SpaceX, and the SpaceX IPO price was $135. The open price was at $150, as we can see down here, and it traded all the way up to $176. Now the closing price was roughly around 160. On this chart here it is 166, but I think official media, they reported at 160. And if you look at that, that's actually quite volatile if we see that, because this was actually a gain of over 17%. However, from that high, it actually dumped all the way down again over 10% to here 157, and it closed somewhere around 160. I think official media reported 160. So yeah, quite a volatile open, but very interesting. Now the question is, how will this continue? Will this continue to go higher, or will we see now a big sell-off, or what is going to happen? Now the first thing that I want to look at, if we compare this to other big companies that are as big as this company, and therefore I just wrote down the market cap of the other big companies among the Magnificent Seven. And as we can see, SpaceX is just amidst those big companies with a market cap at the close of 2.1 trillion US dollar. Now if we look at Nvidia, they have 5 trillion US dollar, Apple 4.5 trillion, Alphabet also 4.5, Microsoft around 3 trillion US dollar, Amazon somewhere around 2.2 trillion US dollar. Then we have Meta with 1.5 to 1.8 trillion US dollar, and Tesla at 1.3 to 1.6 trillion US dollar. So actually SpaceX is as large from a market capitalization as companies within the Magnificent Seven. However, there is one massive difference between SpaceX and all the other companies. And that difference is that all other companies are profitable businesses. Now this business, on the other hand, is just a cash burner. They don't have a profitable product. Overall, they are not writing positive numbers. Now, and I think this is one of the major differences between these other companies. Yes, they have one profitable business, which is Starlink. So Starlink is the only aspect of their business that is profitable, where they are making money. However, this does not cover all the other costs that they have with rocket launches and research and all of that. So yeah, I think this is one of the major differences compared on the other companies. And yes, you might say, okay, but I can forecast, for example, revenue growth and all of that. But on the other hand, if you don't have a profitable business, then in the long term, in theory, the company should go or will go bankrupt. Of course, this is not going to happen with SpaceX, because SpaceX just has huge backing, also backing from the government and all of that. So yeah, so what is actually the stock based on? Actually, it's only based on hype. And if something is only based on hype, then I personally think it is questionable. However, as we have seen before with Tesla as well, Tesla also has been like hugely overhyped in the past, and the stock price most of the time did not really represent what the company itself is actually worth. But in the end, if the public thinks that a stock is worth, or a company is worth that much, then that's just how it is. So yeah, that's my general take on that. So as of now, SpaceX is not listed within the Nasdaq stock index. However, it might be listed very soon. I think there are certain requirements. In the past, I think it had to be at least 3 months, but now I think with SpaceX, the minimum requirements have been lowered. So yeah, let's see. I think very soon they might be listed within the Nasdaq stock index. And actually for that reason, I also want to look at the Nasdaq stock index today. And let's see what is the overall situation of the stock market and how would I evaluate the stock market at the moment, because I think this might also play a massive role how this stock here, like SpaceX, will further develop. All right, let's have a look. So if we look at the Nasdaq on the weekly chart, we can see that we just had a massive rally all the way up to 30,000 US dollar. Now the question is, will this rally continue, or will we now see a big stock market crash from this level? Now, what is important to look at, in my opinion, is the volume. So let's have a look at the fixed range volume profile, and I would suggest let's look from roughly when Donald Trump came into office until now. All right. So here we can clearly see that we had a massive balance in this range over here. So we had the highest volume traded around this level. And after that, we over here first saw a breakdown. However, it got rejected and price continued to push higher. Now, if we look higher here at our rally, I think there is something that is very, very important. And that is that we have very thin volume, especially when we compare it to down here. Even down here, we had way more volume, but this whole rally up here was based on very thin volume. Now, this isn't necessarily something bad. However, it could potentially mean that the market needs to come back and repair these levels. That's why I think it is very important right now. If we look at this range up here, if we up here now can build a balance or not. If we cannot build a balance in this range, so what we want to see is something similar like here. We want to see that Nasdaq just continues to consolidate over here, builds balance, like establishes price. Then I think maybe we could continue this trend and we potentially could go higher. However, as long as we don't have much volume here and as long as there's almost no volume in this range, I could see that we potentially could go all the way back, repair all these levels here and go back into this balance and potentially even crash further, even down to this level. Because if we look over here, we also had a massive range over here where Nasdaq just was trading in balance, and we could also use our volume profile over here and just draw it a little bit further. And if we do that, we can definitely see that Nasdaq here was also in a massive range and balance phase. And I personally wouldn't be surprised if we could come all the way back even down to 22,000 or somewhere around 20,000. And how realistic or unrealistic is that? Let's discuss that. In general, I think it is very realistic, especially when we see such a massive rally. Because let me remove really quick all these drawings here. If we look at previous rallies of the Nasdaq, for example, over here, the rally was way healthier than it is right now. So there were many days where we also had red days, where it just was consolidating, where we saw a pullback. But over here, there was almost near to no pullbacks at all. And even in the past, we never really saw such crazy rallies. And for that reason, I personally think we really have to come back. We need to repair these levels. And we can even compare that to other pullbacks. If we look, for example, at this pullback over here, we saw a correction of roughly 26%. And even if we look at this pullback over here, we had a correction of roughly 35 or 36%. And if we do the same at the current level, if we also expect a correction of, let's say, just from the recent price down 30 to 35%, here 35%, so 35% would leave us exactly at the level that we just discussed at this previous balance range. Therefore, I think it could be very realistic that we see a pullback all the way down to this level. But of course, this definitely depends on if Nasdaq is going to start building out balance over here, or if we see the first signs of a pullback. And if it breaks down from this level, we see maybe a retest, then I think we just will see a straight dump. And if it starts to roll, then I think it won't stop. Then it will like very quickly dump all the way down and we will see a massive correction. And just for this reason, I would not invest into SpaceX. Just for this reason, as I personally think that we are definitely overbought. And we can also look at some indicators. For example, if we look at the RSI over here, we are definitely in overbought territory. Here, look at this. And if we are in overbought territory, we most of the time see correction, or we at least see consolidation. So the same happened, for example, over here. We were overbought, saw a correction. Then over here, we were almost in overbought territory, correction. Same over here, overbought territory, and we saw consolidation or a little bit of a correction. Same over here, overbought territory, and we saw consolidation or correction. So just for all of these reasons, I personally wouldn't invest into SpaceX at the moment. I definitely would wait it out. I definitely would wait how this will continue, if there really will be a peace deal between the United States and Iran, or what are the next things that are going to happen. Are we going to run into a recession or not? Yeah, but I definitely would wait it out. And after that, if you're interested to invest in SpaceX, then maybe start dollar cost averaging into it. So as you can see, I'm not too keen on SpaceX. I personally think that we are definitely in overbought territory when it comes to the stock market, and I personally expect a correction in the near future. Long term, maybe if you have an investment horizon over decades, maybe in the next 10, 20 years, maybe even 30, 40, 50 years, then I think yes, this investment could be interesting for you, especially if Elon Musk really succeeds in his endeavors. If he really can manage to fly regularly to the moon, or maybe really settle on Mars, then I definitely think that SpaceX is a good investment. But in the short term, I don't think so. In the short term, I would rather stay away from it. I would wait until I see how the market plays out, how the price plays out. And if we run into a recession or anything like that, and first wait it out, at least to some degree. Also, always consider that they don't have a profitable product, or overall that they are not profitable compared to other companies among the Magnificent Seven. So for that reason, I personally would not invest in it, at least not in the near future. I would wait it out at least half a year or up to 1 year, and then maybe start to dollar cost average into it in case you are interested to invest in it. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, then please leave a comment down below, and also hit subscribe and leave a like there. And I hope to see you in my next video.